Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. A number of tenants living in a Glengarry apartment are still without a home. That's after a fire ripped through upper levels of the building last week. Plus, after years of wanting an apology from the federal government, a local historian could be one step closer. And we have some Super Bowl 58 reaction from a group of girls who weren't particularly interested in the game. Some residents living in a Glengarry apartment are still out of their homes. That's after being evacuated as a fire ripped through the upper floors of the building last week. 70% of those living in the building have returned, but there's concerns among the ones who haven't. The CBC's Jacob Barker has more.
Today, the windows are boarded up and the tenants on floors 7 and 8 are not being allowed to return. Last Thursday, the entire building was evacuated after a fire on the 7th floor broke out. There were harrowing pictures of people breaking windows to grasp for air. Kevin Poulin, who asked not to be on camera for this story, was one of the residents who escaped the blaze.
We came out and come down the side and out the side, and that's it. Haven't been allowed back in since.
What was that experience like?
Yeah, it was kind of scary, traumatic a bit. Like, I've been through it before. I was in a fire when I was younger before, but it's different. Especially when you look out in your hallway and you can't see nowhere.
Poulin says everything he owns is in the apartment he left behind. He hasn't been able to get back in since the fire.
The guy just got in and tell me there's nothing salvageable up there, so everything we got up there we lost.
Right now he's staying with friends and 3 dogs. He has no plan to stay at the WFCU Center. That's where the city has set up a temporary shelter. He says he's called the Community Housing Corporation, which owns the building, every day to see what's happening, but is not getting any responses.
So I'm going to go by there now and see what the hell's up, because like, they got insurances for this. Put us up somewhere. Yeah. Especially our apartment, like the people that right there got hit the most.
According to CHC, about 40 people are still out of their homes. There are also shuttles leaving from H4 to the WFCU Center. Their residents are also being provided with meals. We were not able to ask any questions of the city today because its communications manager says it wants to give their direction and plan directly to residents before speaking with the media. However, residents are not just staying at the shelter. Those that we spoke with today says that there are many that are staying with friends and family and are spread across the city. The city says that more information will be provided to us tomorrow morning. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Windsor.
A Windsor police inspector has pleaded guilty to 1 count of discreditable conduct for being inappropriate with his female colleagues over the last 18 years. During a hearing this morning, Inspector Ed Armstrong admitted to making unwanted comments and text messages to female co-workers. Some of those messages were sexual in nature. Armstrong also said he commented on the appearance of female Windsor police employees and made unwanted physical contact with them. That all happened between 2005 and 2023. Starting today, Armstrong has been demoted to staff sergeant for 1 year. After that, he will automatically get his inspector rank back. Last month, Armstrong was charged with 7 counts of discreditable conduct before pleading guilty to 1 count today. A Windsor man is facing 18 charges related to child pornography. Last month, Windsor police started an investigation into a man they suspected of sharing child sexual abuse photos online. Last week, police executed a search warrant at an Elm Avenue home. Officers seized 12 cell phones, a laptop, a desktop computer, 2 tablets, and other storage devices. A 29-year-old man has been charged with 6 counts each of possessing child porn, accessing child porn, and making child porn available. After being on the brink of strike action a week ago, there's officially a new contract between Transit Windsor workers and the City of Windsor. City Council and the Transit Board endorsed the deal today following a ratification vote by the workers yesterday. Members of Amalgamated Transit Union Local 616 voted 90% in favor of the agreement. That's after months of negotiations. The deal was reached on February 4th, just hours before a strike deadline. Acting Infrastructure Commissioner Mark Winterton said he's glad there was no disruption of bus services. According to the ATU, the deal secures improvements in wages, benefits, and working conditions. Local 616 represents around 300 drivers, tradespeople, and other staff. A local historian is heading to Ottawa to try and fulfill a long-time wish. Last year, Elise Harding Davis started a petition to get the federal government to apologize for slavery in Canada. That petition will be introduced at Parliament at the end of February by NDP MP Brian Massey. Massey and Harding Davis say they hope politicians will see the value in an apology.
To me, it means a lifetime of struggling to uplift, promote, and protect the history of African Canadian people will actually be dignified.
So we're trying to do better about, telling our stories and history. And so this one is what we want done, is really the acknowledgement that Canada actually had slavery, and it was slavery for personal property. You owned other human beings based upon their race. And second to that, it has led to some discrimination.
The province's Solicitor General recently came to Windsor to meet with some of the city's officials to discuss public safety. One of the top issues discussed last month with the mayor, police chief, and the CEO of Windsor Regional Hospital is related to cross-border crime and what MPP Michael Kerzner says is a substantial number of guns crossing illegally.
This is a major issue. It's something that just in less than 2 years that I've been Solicitor General, we've gone from having a majority of guns that are used in an illegal activity coming from the U.S. to now almost every gun used in illegal activity coming from the U.S. And that's unacceptable. And I've said this to my federal counterpart many times. You've got to take measures at the border to increase your inspections and understand that these illegal guns coming into our country are causing a problem.
Individuals involved in the contracting, development, and implementation of the ArriveCan app ignored basic management practices. That's according to Canada's Auditor General, who also says taxpayers paid too much for the pandemic-era app. She presented her scathing report to the House Public Accounts Committee today. CBC's David Thurton has more.
This multi-million-dollar app wasted tax dollars, according to the Auditor General.
Overall, this audit shows a glaring disregard for basic management and contracting practices throughout ArriveCan's development and implementation.
Her audit laid the blame on the Canada Border Services Agency, the Public Health Agency, and Procurement Canada. Travelers were required to use ArriveCan during the pandemic's early days. It is still used for immigration declaration forms, but remains controversial.
I have to say that I am deeply concerned by what this audit didn't find.
Hogan's audit found very little information for awarding GC Strategies an uncompetitive contract. Record keeping was so bad that it was hard to estimate the app's final costs. Estimates peg it at nearly $60 million. According to the Auditor General, if the Government of Canada had done this kind of IT work, it would have cost an average of $675 a day. Instead, with ArriveCan's contractors, it costs almost twice as much, nearly $1,100.
In no way are we going to defend this particular contracting process.
The minister responsible for the Canada Border Services Agency says that every single recommendation will be implemented, but also shifted accountability to the CBSA's head.
She is taking all of the appropriate steps to hold anybody to account in the case of alleged wrongdoing, but also to ensure that this kind of circumstance can never be allowed to happen again.
The Conservative leader blamed the Prime Minister.
Won't he stand up today and admit that the app is just like him? It's not worth the cost, it's not worth the corruption.
The Auditor General stopped short of calling this corruption. She left that to the RCMP, which is investigating issues across the CBSA. But she did say that this is some of the worst financial record keeping that she's probably ever seen. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
A court ruling today comes as a loss for the Ford government and a big win for the unions fighting the province. Ontario's top court finding that a law limiting wages for public sector workers is unconstitutional. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redicop takes us through the ruling and the reaction.
Ford government's unjust.
Unions see it as a big victory. They first challenged the government in court on Bill 124.
So they've gained absolutely nothing in this process. That's been upheld now by 2 courts.
Bill 124 has got to go. The bill was unpopular with many unions, limiting wage increases to a maximum 1% a year for 3 years, affecting hundreds of thousands of workers, including teachers, nurses, and other healthcare workers. Today, the Court of Appeal agreed with a 2022 decision that the bill takes away their right to collective bargaining. So many unions were involved in this case, it takes the first 7 pages of the ruling just listing them off. Today, labor groups determined and emboldened, even if the government decides to appeal again.
We will take it all the way to the Supreme Court, but on the way, we will make their lives hell, right? Because that is what they have done to frontline workers in every single sector of this province.
The opposition leader had a message for the Premier.
Respect the court's decision. Drop this appeal, back off workers, pay them fairly.
Some workers already had retroactive pay increases for Bill 124, but only those who had a special clause in their contracts and have gone through arbitration. The union leaders want everyone receiving the extra money, with the government on the hook for it, not employers.
We're going to take, all no-hold-barred approach. We're going to ask employers, frankly, to join us in advocating to the provincial government.
This isn't a complete win for all workers under Bill 124. The ruling makes clear this is only for unionized workers. This also wasn't a unanimous decision. 1 out of the 3 judges sided with the government. The government had argued back in 2019 that this was a financial move about helping bring down the deficit. Today, the finance minister, speaking on another issue, couldn't say whether the government will continue this fight.
So we'll take the time to take a look at it thoughtfully and deliberately. I know it affects a lot of people.
The government has 60 days to decide whether to appeal to the Supreme Court of Canada. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
If you're a dog owner in Windsor, you may qualify to get some money back. The city is now waiving registration fees during the dog licensing process. That's if the applicant can provide proof that their animal has been both neutered and microchipped. That means if you've already paid that fee for this year, you could get a refund. The city says it will take a few weeks to get the refund process set up. The dog fees varied between $17 and $47 depending on when you registered. Council made this change in its recently finalized 2024 budget. It's hard not to talk about the Super Bowl last night without mentioning Taylor Swift. She popped up on the screen multiple times during the evening, to some people's annoyance and to others' excitement. Well, a group of Swifties couldn't have been more pleased. Here are the highlights from the group's Super Bowl watch party in Atlantic, Canada.
Everybody here is in such good spirits. Everybody's having a great time. So basically, we had a couple Swifties reach out asking if we were gonna do something for Super Bowl. It was totally a last-minute plan, but about a week in the making, it turned into just a big Swiftie hangout to watch the game and watch it somewhere that the Brads, Dads, and Chads weren't at. So we didn't want that like haters gonna hate vibe. We wanted the fun, inclusive Swiftie vibe.
My father grew us up watching the Super Bowl. So like I am familiar with the Super Bowl, but I never actually like watched it myself really, just for the halftime shows. But I now really get the pull, and I think this will continue.
I'm a big Chiefs fan now, weirdly, but yeah.
So were you a football fan before?
Definitely not. No, not at all. Not at all.
We've watched every single game this season, so as it built up to Super Bowl, it was like, can Taylor make it there? Oh, there's Taylor. It was just the fun of it all.
We're at Moxie Halifax Hotel, so we have a photo booth in one area. We have friendship bracelet making, TVs in 3 different sections of the hotel so that people can spread out, have fun, watch the game. We have a station that people can pick up bingo cards, which is for football bingo. Basically, it's things like, is Taylor gonna get shown on screen? Are Taylor and Travis gonna kiss? What's gonna happen through the game? Is Jason gonna take his shirt off in the box like he's known for doing? Honestly, it's that connection. Wives will now watch football with their husbands when they typically wouldn't. Daughters are wanting to watch with their dads, which is a fantastic vibe. Like, it brings that connection together. And Taylor is a connector with her lyrics, but now connector with sports as well.
Well, we aren't in for the temperatures we saw last week, but still some gorgeous mid-February weather is in our forecast. More on that coming up after the break. Many parts of the country are experiencing unseasonably mild weather. That is certainly true in southern BC, where the lack of snow is causing concern. Lindsay Duncombe explains.
This is what drought looks like in the North Shore Mountains near Vancouver. Every month, Metro Vancouver hydrologists visit weather stations to measure the snow. There's not much to measure, 900 meters above sea level.
Yeah, so usually we'd see about 2 meters of snow here.
2 meters, so that's like taller than me.
Yeah, exactly. Over our heads.
This is part of the network of reservoirs and lakes that provide Vancouver's water supply.
So what it really means is that we need to start thinking already about water conservation as we move into the drier months.
This isn't just happening in the Vancouver area. Right across British Columbia, snowpack is low, and there are big worries about what that could mean for spring.
The latest snowpack report shows an average snowpack 61% of normal. The hardest hit areas are where most people live.
It's just what is extremely unusual is how low it is everywhere.
Already, the province has called meetings with farmers to talk conservation. BC Hydro has had to import electricity and raise rates. Oil and gas producers told to make plans to store water for fracking operations.
We have communities in local states of emergency because they don't have enough drinking water in February. That really starts to make people concerned for what that's going to look like in the summer.
Higher in the mountains, the hydrologists find snow.
So right now there's about 1.10 meters, 110 centimeters, about 30% of what we would usually see.
There are still a couple of months of winter to go. Lots of snow could yet fall, but the scientists say don't count on it. The near forecast looks dry. Lindsay Duncombe, CBC News, Vancouver.
The CBC's Victor Paulo is here now to join us. Victor, like the West Coast, we certainly haven't seen much snow this winter.
You know, you're right, Meg, you're right. There's not that much snow that's been coming our way, and it has been a lot of above seasonal temperatures, especially the Friday that we've just had. Now, if we're taking a look at what we're going to be expecting later on this week, Meg, the good news is we're going to be getting back to that winter we're used to. What do I mean by that? Well, let me explain. We're expecting some more colder days ahead. We have a bit of a chilly morning, and when it comes to Tuesday, it's going to be a sunny one. Now, current temperatures right now, it is 2 degrees in Windsor. If you take a look, the further north we go, you can notice a lot of the temperatures start to dip, around a 1 degree in London, a 0 in Kitchener, and that's all signs of that Arctic air mass, which is north of where we're located, and it's slowly working its way down to the southeast of Ontario. And as we get later on into the week, you're going to notice that right around Thursday, there's a chance of some snow coming our way. And with that snow, the further north you go, maybe closer to Barrie, that'd be a great place to go if you're looking forward for some ski conditions. Now, taking a look at what we're expecting on the long-range forecast here, well, we're expecting some precipitation to come our way, as we did discuss. But when will it be coming? Well, most of it, as you do see, is not coming our way for Tuesday because we have a sunny Tuesday in store. But as you do get later on in your week, we're expecting more precipitation to sort of build in the area closer to your Thursday. Now, that Thursday precipitation is going to be a mix of rain and a mix of snow due to all the above seasonal temperatures. Now, a lot of the wind which we're receiving here in the Windsor region, you see, is coming from the south. That's that warmer air versus a lot of the air which is coming from the north is a lot of what the air that'll be chilling things down. Now, when we're taking a bit of a peek ahead as to what's going to be happening with that wind, you can see it's going to be getting a little bit gusty later on as we get to start your morning. We're going to have gusts up to 28 kilometers per hour, and you can see that wind direction switches to more coming from that northwest, and that is why it's going to be quite a chilly start to your day. And as you do get later on in your day, you're going to also notice that it's going to be pretty consistently strong, and that's why it's not going to be as warm as it was on Friday. But speaking of temperatures, when it comes to overnight tonight, it's going to be 9 degrees. Now, that 9 degrees, of course, is much warmer than we're used to, but of course, it's going to be weather where if you're looking to take a run late night, looking to take your pets for a walk, it's going to be weather which would be much more reasonable than those minus days. Hope you all have yourselves a great night, Windsor. Over to you, Meg.
Thanks so much for that, Victor. I'm looking forward to some more seasonable temperatures. Now, we're just days away from Valentine's Day, and flower growers are busy. We introduce you to a farm in Colombia as they get ready for the big day. That's coming up. An Ontario man's dream home had it all, except enough heat to keep him warm in the winter. He had to live in frigid temperatures for months after a builder installed a furnace that was too small and failed to do anything about it. Rosa Marcatelli with CBC's Go Public unit investigated.
The floor is freezing, so we have to turn it up.
When the weather turned cold, William Lobodici found himself layering on the clothing and constantly cranking up the temperature in his brand new dream home. And it was still chilly.
As an expert, they know when they installed these appliances that they weren't going to work. So why go ahead with it?
The air conditioner installed was also too small for the job. About 20 of Lobodici's neighbors faced the same problem, according to the city of Hamilton. Complaints to the builder, Starwood Homes, went nowhere.
I mean, they're even admitting, yep, it's undersized. Yep, it won't work. And sorry, not doing anything.
Same thing from the HVAC company, Reliance Home Comfort, who said they just installed what the builder told them to, says Lobodici.
There's really fundamentally a lack of adequate consumer protection.
Despite government promises of a home buyer's bill of rights almost 2 years ago, Canadians are still waiting. Ottawa tells Go Public consultations with key stakeholders are done and will soon share the results. At the center of this is Canada's building boom and the problems it's causing, says this advocate.
But there's a shortage of labor, there's a shortage of municipal inspectors. The whole system is fraught with problems, unfortunately.
The city of Hamilton tells Go Public they knew the furnaces and the air conditioning units violated building codes, but let it slide while working with the builder to correct it since July. That's news to Bob Fraser, one of Lobodici's neighbors with the same problem.
They knew about this problem, but they put it into the background and said, we'll deal with it later.
After Go Public inquiries, the builder said they're working on a solution. At the same time, Reliance Home Comfort, the HVAC company, replaced the furnace and the air conditioner for both homeowners and some of their neighbors. Rosa Marcatelli, CBC News, Calgary.
It's one of the busiest weeks for flower growers, and many farms in Columbia have been gearing up for Valentine's Day. Flower farmers have been working nonstop for what is the big day for their industry. Many South American farms started production 6 months ahead. Workers have to pick and pack flowers for export, mostly to the U.S., which is their biggest consumer market. This woman says she talks to the flowers as she works and even plays music for them. Last year, Columbia exported about 52,000 tons of cut flowers in the lead up to Valentine's Day. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow night.